Hey, what's up, everybody? So I was unfortunately unable to watch the Packers preseason game live on Saturday because I had a fantasy football draft at my friend's lake house, and so that had to take precedent. We do it in person every single year, and so I have watched the game since that point. So I want to give a few of my biggest takeaways from the preseason game. And most of the starters, pretty much none of the starters played besides basically Sean Ryan. So it's a lot of backup players, guys fighting for some of those final roster spots. But I have a few takeaways that I want to get to now. We need to talk about Bo Melton, because I think the first time you hear that a team is trying to move their receiver to corner, you think to yourself, like, that would be cool if it worked out, but what are the odds of that actually full on, succeeding? And I think so far with Bo Melton, he's played incredible football at cornerback. And if we look at his 41 snaps, he's played 41 snaps in the 2 preseason games. He's allowed 4 receptions for 38 yards, not too bad. Had 1 pass breakup in this game. He does have 3 missed tackles. But I just think for a guy who is still new to playing corner in the NFL, to look as good as he's looked, he's honestly exceeded my expectations for what I thought we would see from Bo Melton. And it really does feel like the more that he plays, the better and better he's going to get. Now, I don't know how much regular season action he's going to get unless the Packers experience some injuries at cornerback. But I feel like the more he plays, the better he's going to get. And even going into next year and the following year, maybe he can keep developing in the offseason and become a much better cornerback, I would assume, because he just hasn't had that many reps. And the 1 pass breakup against the Colts, and I was watching the play, and I couldn't see the number in the moment as I was watching the replay. And I'm like, who was that? Who was that? And I see it's Bo Melton. I was like, my goodness, he looks like a legit corner. And so if that's what we're seeing at this point so early on, I'm excited for what's going to come in the future. So I feel like he is going to make the roster as one of the final cornerbacks here, and he's a big special teams guy as well. And then the next guy I want to talk about is Jordan Morgan. And when you have a first-round guy in his first season, he dealt with different injuries. He played, a somewhat good amount of snaps, but not a ton. Now we're getting to see more and more of him, especially since Rasheed Walker has been dealing with his injury. Jordan Morgan has had 61 snaps at left tackle in the preseason, and he hasn't allowed a single pressure. And so now in year 2 for this first-rounder, Jordan Morgan, it looks like he's starting to develop. And so I think at this point we can see that Jordan Morgan is developing, and Rasheed Walker is in the final year of his deal here in Green Bay. And so even if Rasheed Walker has a very good year, the Packers could move to Jordan Morgan next year if Walker does win the starting job. There's definitely a chance Morgan could win it this year, but if he didn't win it, the Packers could still bank on Morgan potentially next year being the starter at left tackle. So it's been very good to see him playing really good football, because when you have a first-round guy, it's like at some point you want to start seeing some solid football, and at least in these preseason games, that's what we've seen. Now another offensive lineman, second rounder from this year, Anthony Belton, had 5 penalties in the first half. And so it just seems like he's making some, rookie-type mistakes that hopefully will get cleaned up as time goes by. And some of the coaches have talked about how in the second half, after having all those penalties, he was playing much better. So a lot of stuff to clean up there. But I think for any of these, year 1, year 2 guys, it's to be expected that it takes them some time to develop and grow and overcome some of these mistakes. Now, unfortunately, Marshawn Lloyd is dealing with another injury, which has been the consistent theme ever since he came to Green Bay, which is just so unfortunate because he has so much talent, and I really hope that we get, a long stretch of getting to see him play football, because I think that he has a ton to offer. And you even saw it on the play that he got injured on. It was like a 33-yard wheel route, and this Packers offense with Marshawn Lloyd gets so much better just because when Josh Jacobs comes off the field, Marshawn Lloyd just has an insane explosiveness, and I just hope he stays healthy. And now we just don't really know how long he's going to be out, and Matt LaFleur did say earlier today that he is going to be missing some time. So it's just unfortunate. Hopefully he can stay healthy, because when he's healthy, I think he's going to be very, very good at running back. Now, a few more things. These are some of my major takeaways. Looking at some of the quarterback play, Malik Willis, I don't think he had the best day. He just seemed a little bit shaky to me, a little bit inaccurate at times. He had a few nice plays, I think it was a third down scramble where the pocket's breaking down, and that's an area where he is very, very talented. Just that ability to break away, escape the pocket, things like that. We saw a lot of that, but it seemed to be a few accuracy issues there in that game. And just comparing to how he looked in the games last season, it's just felt to me like he's been a little bit off compared to that last year. So hopefully he'll clean some of that stuff up. And then now for the battle for the third quarterback spot, we have Taylor Elgersma from Canada, and then we have Sean Clifford, who's been here a couple of years now. And honestly, I do think that Taylor Elgersma, from what I've seen so far, has more potential than Sean Clifford just from what we've seen at this point. And it still feels to me like Elgersma is still a little bit raw, still figuring things out a little bit, but he played really good in that game, had a few misses, but I just think he's an insanely strong arm. I feel like the more that he just stays here in Green Bay and continues to develop, I wouldn't be surprised if he was the Packers' backup quarterback next year if Malik Willis ends up leaving. And Sean Clifford did have the, touchdown winning run in this game. Of course, it's preseason. Don't really necessarily care too much about the score. Of course, you like to see the Packers win at any time, but Sean Clifford basically had the game-winning run in there, and he has that talent. He has that ability to run around, run the ball. But it feels to me, just from the small sample size I've seen from Elgersma, it feels to me like he has more potential. So we'll see if he potentially beats out Sean Clifford. We'll see what the Packers do there at quarterback, who they put in the practice squad, things like that. And then a couple of final things. Isaiah Simmons had seemingly been looking really good in training camp, according to lots of different reporters. It just feels at times in some of these games, these preseason games, that Simmons just hasn't looked super comfortable out there. Looks like he's, questioning things and not necessarily always in the right spot. He has made a few nice plays, had a really nice run stop this past game. But I just feel like Christian Welch, other Packers linebacker, has looked much better in my mind. He looks much more consistent. He seems to have a better grasp of where to be, things like that. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Christian Welch ends up making the roster over Isaiah Simmons, because I feel like, we know Isaiah Simmons has a ton of talent. I just feel like from what we've seen from Christian Welch, at least in this past preseason game, I feel like Welch is a little bit of a safer option if you have some linebacker injuries. But those are pretty much my biggest takeaways from the game. There's a few other players who played well. Deslin Alexander played great. Nazir Stackhouse had a few nice plays. Julian Hicks had an insane one-handed catch from Malik Willis. It was unfortunately called back due to holding. But all in all, great preseason game. And there's one final preseason game remaining this weekend, and then we'll be in the regular season in the next few weeks. So that should be exciting. Some football where it actually matters, the final score, which those games are much more exciting. But if you want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time.